Hey everybody, welcome to another miserable podcast, Horror Decomposed. If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. We have a really rad show in store for you. My name is Zach. Joining me, as always, Professor Casey.
Sup? Hey everybody, welcome if you're new. If you're not, welcome back.
And I'm really super excited to welcome a very special guest to the show. You know him as actor, writer, director of the CarousHELL series, as well as the Meowy series and the just released CarousHELL 2, Mr. Steve Rudzinski.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It is a joy to be here.
Welcome, Steve. Welcome, man. I just gotta say, you made quite the movie, man. And it was my introduction to your work, and oh god, it was such a joy to watch. And I absolutely recommend repeat viewings of Carousel. If you've only seen it once, you need to go back and watch it again, because there were so many like nuggets and gags that you put in the background and things that I missed the first time. It's just great. Like Duke pretending to be like a lantern, like a lamp, when Cowboy Cool is trying to find him. Just so many wonderful touches like that. So let's just get started. For people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your journey as a filmmaker, your influences.
Sure.
Who are you, Steve?
Well, I am Steve Rudzinski, a world famous filmmaker. You may have heard of me by tuning into the show, at least. So I have always loved horror. It's always been my favorite genre. My first movie I ever saw was Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 3. And Army of Darkness is the movie that explicitly made me decide to make movies. Because I always wanted to be a creator, but I didn't know exactly how. Whether it was comic books or video games, I wanted to write something. And then Army of Darkness went, no, this is for you. And I never changed my mind since I was 12. So starting as a teen, I was making terrible movies in my backyard, with a high 8 camcorder. And then I updated to a mini DV. That was a big deal. And eventually, did a bunch of stuff in the backyard, did stuff for the internet, did movies that I kind of sold at conventions, which actually started getting me some networking and some connections, even when I was 18, 19 years old. And eventually it got to a point where in 2010, I really wanted to start taking it more seriously. I made a short called The Slasher Hunter, which is what I consider to be my first real movie. And then I released that in 2011. I've been doing basically a movie a year ever since.
That's just kind of your work ethic is really impressive, man. Like, what's kind of your strategy? What's your secret to getting the most out of like a limited budget? Because I think that's kind of seems to be like your specialty, because you don't necessarily have tons of resources with what you're doing.
And you get some sick practical effects in there. There's like some great stuff. And
it's not like you're like these films, like your ideas are they're ambitious. They're things that you think, oh, you must need like twice the budget of probably what you have. So like, what would you say to like aspiring filmmakers who feel like hamstrung by their budget and are afraid they don't have the resources to make what they want to make? What would you say to them, and what's kind of your tips and how you've managed?
Well, I would say you always need to be ambitious, but also write with a realistic budget in mind. There's always stuff you can like write bigger than what you have and try to make it work later. But for the most part, if you're writing something that's going to cost $500,000 to make, you're fucked. Like there's no wiggle room there if you're starting that big. Whereas if you start a little smaller and then you realize you have a little bit more money, then you can add to it a bit. So a good way, you need to sit down. Write your script with the realistic budget in mind. And then after you write your script, the very next thing that I do is work out the budget of the whole movie to figure out how much I actually need using the script. Like, okay, I have these many actors for these many characters. How many days do I need them? How can I make it the least amount of days as possible? But to be clear, I have 8-hour days on set. So don't pay a $50 day rate and then have a 16-hour day every day.
No,
don't be a jerk like that.
Yeah.
But figure out a way in the sense where you can kind of consolidate all of their days together and then they're done. So you only need them for like 3 days for the entire movie, because that's how you're shooting the scenes in that specific order. And that can cut out a lot of budget too. I see a lot of first-time filmmakers that are having their actors on set way too much, way too often for no reason. And if they are paying them, which they should, at least most of the time, if you're upfront about it, whatever, it's its own thing, they're wasting a lot of money just on that. Like, yeah. I've definitely worked on films that have been like 3 months past schedule, and the budget is exploding just because of the actors alone, like not even getting into the crew or the locations or redoing effects, anything like that. have a good schedule, and then from there figure out how you can get locations. Okay, I need this much for locations. Can I get this location for free? Can I get this location for this much money? Figure that out well ahead of time. Figure out. I usually talk to my effects guy, Cody Rook. He's the guy who did the effects. He's been doing the effects with me since Red Christmas. He did the Demon Dog puppet in Meowy Halloween. He did CarousHEll. He did CarousHEll 2 with Gabby Ventura, which is even better. It's fantastic. But I would outright talk to him like, here's all of the effects in the script. How much will this cost? And I look to his expertise for that because I don't know everything, and you're not going to know everything if you're a first-time filmmaker either. So talk to other people. Mm-hmm. If you can figure out someone that you know that can do things, ask them how much they would want for this, while keeping in mind how much an estimate of how much money you have to work with. If you can hire someone to do cinematography, or if you need to come to terms with, okay, I can't afford to hire someone. I'm shooting the movie myself. I'm editing the movie myself. Yada yada yada. And once you get an idea of what the actual budget is. And then you can actually start scheduling and moving forward with your movie. But it's a really important step, and there's a lot of work to it. And at this point, after 10 years, I'm just good at it because I've been doing it for 10 years. Like, I'd have to sit down with someone with one of my budgets to kind of be like, this is kind of how I came up with this number and this number. I can't just give, like, more generic advice because it's just you get used to it.
Dude, it's awesome though. We gotta get you a master class going because you get a lot out of a budget. I love it. You mentioned locations really quickly, so I have to ask nerd question.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the lunchbox home.
Yes.
Whenever we see an over the shoulder shot, we see a nice action figure collection in the background. That is out of focus. I'm assuming for copyright reasons, but I was just wondering whose toys were they and what were they?
Again, in terms of saving money on budget, that opening scene was in my home at the time.
Yes.
Because I'd never shot anything there before, and we had that nice long island table. So I was like, oh, this can actually work for shot reasons, in addition to saving money reasons. So that is my Transformers collection.
Nice. So, okay, are you primarily a Transformers collector, or do you have other stuff going on? Because I always try to hit the collectibles side of the show as much as possible.
See, I actually collect way more Power Rangers Super Sentai stuff, and
Awesome.
also a lot of superhero, mainly DC figures. And I have an assortment of like movie figures. You know, I have like Rocketeer standing next to Roy Burns from Friday 5, standing next to Freddy from Friday 4. And then my wrestling shelf is more on the bottom shelf, and that's a mix of New Japan, AEW, and a couple WWE guys.
Awesome. I love that you mentioned AEW because my personal favorite wrestler, Pentagon Jr., a.k.a. Penta El Cero M, works for them now. Cero Miedo, exactly. Favorite wrestler since before
Coolest
he was in Lucha
motherfucker
Underground.
in wrestling.
Yeah, definitely. If you're ever out in California, let us know. We will take you to the Lucha store that he owns. It's amazing.
Okay.
It's a little small. It's in Pasadena though, and all the horror cons are in Pasadena, so it's like just 10-minute drive away from any con that you might already be at. So
okay.
Yeah, it's pretty great. But yeah, I have to ask, who is your favorite wrestler right now?
It's always like a consistent back and forth with Kenny Omega because he's so good in the ring and he's a giant nerd. And Kazuchika Okada, who is just like the god emperor of wrestling. Like he doesn't super fly, he doesn't do anything super extravagant, but he does everything so well. Mm-hmm. And his just presence is like that's a world champion. Whenever I see him, one of my favorite birthday gifts my friend Bill Murphy got me. Let me get it here. You'll get a kick out of it. It's this custom art he had of Kenny about to get hit by the Rainmaker, but it's done as a romance scene.
Oh, tremendous. Tremendous.
Oh, that's so good.
I love it.
Yeah, we saw, if you're familiar with Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, I'm pretty sure Casey must have been to this show too. This is before we knew each other, but we saw Kenny Omega years before he was really anybody. He was just getting started out.
I think I've seen him once in PWG.
Yeah, I saw him like he won Battle Los Angeles out in PWG, and he instantly became like my favorite wrestler. And then he made like a huge name for himself in Japan, and so it's been really cool to see.
I was the DDT guy, so I'm like happy to see that he's like made it from there, and him and Ibushi and kind of Michael Nakazawa now.
Yes,
I count that
I'd
as
agree with
making
that,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Casey is a fan of just like the most ridiculous stuff in wrestling, like period.
Oh yeah, so like this flag behind me is an IWA Japan, like the King of Deathmatch tournament
Yeah,
flag.
yeah.
I've got a wing flag to my left because I'm a huge fan of the wrestling monsters like Jason the Terrible and Nightmare Freddy and stuff like that. Can't work at all 90% of the time, but I just love the gimmicks and they entertain me. And but yeah, huge fan. Would you ever consider making a wrestling based horror movie? Because people have tried in kind of varying degrees of success.
Well, I definitely have the itch. I do live performances as well. I also work for Marvel Live, and I'll usually perform in like arenas where I'm taking bumps and they let me write the shows, so they're basically wrestling shows, and I love that. But it's not quite the same. So I don't know if you Casey actually watched any of the Insane Cat movies, but the fourth Cat movie, I actually wrote a wrestling scene into the movie just because I wanted to wrestle.
Nice.
So the climax is me and a alien emperor having a wrestling match.
Oh yeah.
So that especially made me, because that was like a relatively cheap rental. I know the guy. I've been talking to him even about going to the wrestling school because I'd love to be an amateur wrestler. I don't have like extravagant plans to like get into one of the big leagues, but I'd love to be a local traveling guy. I could be a director character, and it's another way to sell my movies. But I absolutely have kept thinking about making a wrestling movie because it'd be good. It'd be really fun, and I'd be able to do a good job with it. My problem is that I can't come up with a plot idea for a feature wrestling film that I find interesting enough to make a feature wrestling film.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's difficult because
The funniest idea I got was this wrestling company. Everything is actually real. It's not kayfabe, but the promoter has to keep acting like it's kayfabe so no one gets arrested.
I like that.
But that's like a 5-minute sketch. Like,
yeah.
How do I stretch that into 60 to 90 minutes? I can't.
Right.
So I don't want to try.
Right. That is kind of brutal. I've been trying as well. A lot of the stuff I just come up with is kind of like an American version of a Lucha Libre movie at this point, and then I'm like, it's been happening. The one that I had, like the idea I had, there was a movie called Enter the Zombie King that came out, and I'm like, this is too similar to my idea. Back to the drawing board. Canadians beat me to it, so I'm like, come on, I'm in California.
Half of my movies exist just because I came up with an idea or a title and realized no one else had done it yet. So I was like, well, I got to do it like right now. Wait, there's not a movie called A Meowi Christmas? How the hell is that the case? Well, now there is. Let's go.
Yes. Those Jingle Cat CDs sold millions.
Right?
Yes. I have to ask you, though, you mentioned the Marvel Live thing. I am 99% sure I have seen you do one of these shows.
Yeah, probably.
Yes, because this is like the one that's like in arenas and kind of starts with some Guardians of the Galaxy stuff and moves into some Iron Fist stuff and things like that. Am I thinking the right thing?
It's not always me. There are a few of us, but I'm definitely the one they use the most and I travel the most.
So you are indeed Spider-Man. That is correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I have, I believe I may, if you've done a show in Las Vegas in the last 5 years, I may have seen you there. Possibly.
Honestly, I don't think Vegas was me.
Oh, man.
Yeah, sorry.
I've seen the show that you've come from, though, and that is very pro wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Steve, can you confirm or deny if you're in No Way Home?
I am not.
I mean, that's what you would say, though. Like, you wouldn't be able to confirm it.
Yeah.
I can neither confirm nor deny that I was told to say this.
They've got to get the whole multiverse in there. If they're getting Sentai Spider-Man and stuff now, I think you've got a shot, Steve. We got to get you in there.
I'll get into Enter the Spider-Verse 3, maybe.
Yes. Yes.
Steve, I think one of the things I love about you as a filmmaker is you've clearly taken things that are near and dear to you, like in your childhood, and you've, made movies about them. You mentioned Power Rangers, and you made like a Power Rangers kind of send-up of that show. And I think it seems like no idea is too ridiculous for you. We can get into, I definitely want to get into the genesis of CarousHELL, but you mentioned the Meowy series. So what did that, because I know that's taken on a life of its own.
Oh God, yes! I can't believe it's become what it is. If you search my name on Amazon, other talking animal movies come up now, because that's how identified I am with the genre.
Because you're like fourth one, right?
Yeah.
So how did that get started? Because everyone knows like a talking cat and stuff. So how did you go? I'm gonna make a talking animal movie and make it actually entertaining.
I can absolutely tell the story. So we finished CarousHELL in October 2016, and it got picked up by Wild Eye Releasing in like February 2017. But they outright said, "Hey, we're not going to be able to like release it for a couple of years since we have such the backlog, but we really like this movie and want it." I'm like, okay, like they were upfront about it. They didn't screw me over or anything like that. So at the time, my friend Bill Murphy and I had a podcast called Movie Films with Bill and Steve. It's no longer active, but if you want to find episodes, it's still on like all the podcast websites and what have you.
Oh yeah.
So we were reviewing talking animal Christmas movies, and there's a couple good ones. Special shout out to The Three Doggeteers, because that was a movie that was very self-aware of what it was. But we just kept watching them, and they were all fucking terrible and really bad and just so milquetoast and poorly written, yet had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of a budget because they were renting mansions. There was Teamster movies. I recognize the names in the credits. They had fucking name actors, and they're just wasting all this money, but they couldn't write a decent script. The movie that finally broke me was a movie called The Dog Who Saves Christmas, and it's the most awful, terrible, boring ripoff of Home Alone with no good jokes, no good scenes, and I just like on the show, on the podcast, I was just screaming, "Screw it! I got a cat and I got $500 spare dollars and nothing else to do. I'm making a Home Alone ripoff." But I'm still an insane person, so when Bill and I wrote it, it's my same insanity and weirdness and wackiness. So the plot is about a cat that watches Alex Jones videos all day. And because she is a stupid cat, she believes him and thinks that two burglars are lizard aliens trying to get at her because she knows the truth.
Tremendous.
So that's probably Meowi Christmas was probably one of the only movies that I've actually made just for fun, like without it being like a product or like a specific profit in mind. I honestly just made it for fun. I tossed it on Prime Video, didn't expect much from it. I just wanted to do it, and it blew up on streaming. Like it did really well. Like streaming pays very, 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 very little. Prime Video pays 1 cent per hour streamed, and Meowi Christmas made a profit in 1 month on just streaming, no physical sales. I'm like,
whoa.
Excuse me? Okay. I mean, it was $500 again, but so I always had the itch to make a PG horror movie because I love like Ernest Scared Stupid. I love Paranorman. Like I love the idea of doing horror, but in the rating that's still okay for children to watch. I think it's really creative and really cool and really fun. So I was like, oh, here's a great opportunity for me to kind of take care of two birds with one stone. I can make a sequel to this successful movie and try to make some more money and also get to make my PG horror movie. Now I'm going to get even crazier, though, because I know people are signed on. So Meowy Halloween has like 52 horror movie references, and Meowy Halloween is probably the greatest financial decision I've ever made in my life. I sell more copies of that movie than I do of CarousHELL. At every convention I go to, I've sold out so many times, I would have never guessed that at these gore horror conventions that talking cat horror movie was this untapped market of success. So those two did so well that I kind of was just like, okay, I can't let this go away. I have to kind of jump on this while it's hot, but at the same time, I don't want to fall down the hole of doing this for the rest of my career, because it'd be so easy to fall down that hole of doing only that for the rest of my career. So I said, okay, I'm going to end the movies. I'm going to end the series. I'm going to give it like a legitimate, genuine ending. And I filmed 3 and 4 at the same time, but I kept up kayfabe for a whole year that I was only making 3. And 4 was surprised announced in the post-credit scene of 3 when I released it.
Nice.
And so 3 and 4 came out St. Patrick's Day and Christmas Vacation, which is one more middle finger to The Dog Who Saves Christmas, because that series, the dog did other holidays, and like several films later, he did The Dog Who Saved Christmas Vacation. I'm like, yo, you go to hell! Just double dipping. So that's why that Meowy is called Christmas Vacation.
I wonder if the filmmakers of The Dog Who Saves like Christmas, like if they know that like what they've created, like
I hope so.
If they know that it's just like this mortal enemy.
I'm coming for you, Zeus.
Oh, dude, it's fascinating to me because I can't remember names off the top of my head, but I've seen tons of like filmmakers who've like got started with like just raunchy grindhouse, exploitation B horror movies, and now they're doing like Lifetime Hallmark Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it's
yeah,
interesting
like
that
it's either like Jim Wynorski or Fred Olin Ray or something. Like one of those guys.
Fred
is
Olin
making,
Ray, maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
someone like that.
That
Yeah,
sounds familiar. Yeah.
it's interesting. It's interesting. Okay, so we got to talk about CarousHEll.
Absolutely. It's why I'm here.
Okay. Now this is the part of the show where we completely blow our guests. I love this movie so much. On this show, certain movies get called Casey movies, and certain movies get called Zach movies, and stuff like that. This is a Casey movie found by Zach that he told me I would love it, and he was right. 4 stars on Letterboxd, people. Check it out.
This is a Zach movie as well because I dug the hell out of this. So I just have to ask, what was the genesis of an idea like this? Well, where did it come from?
So the genesis was the co-creator of CarousHELL, Aline Isley. She came to me with the sentence, Steve, I have an idea for a movie. And as a filmmaker, you hate that sentence.
Yeah.
You hate it. But, I've worked with her before. She's super creative. She's wonderful. So I was like, okay, what's the idea? And she just immediately said, like, no hesitation, not even a beat. Like, we should make a movie about a movie called CarousHELL, and it's about a killer carousel horse. Wait, no, killer carousel unicorn. And I was like, yes, because you got that title immediately won me over, and killer object movie, yes. So I said, okay, this is great. I've already signed on, but what is his motivation? Because to me, that's like the second important thing you need to figure out to kind of figure out what the plot's going to be or what the tone is going to be. And so she sat for a moment, and then she worked at a major amusement park when she was a teenager for several years. And her biggest pet peeve was how much she would watch people just abuse the rides. Like not care about them, dump food, drink, hit them, everything. So she pulled from that and said, okay, it's about this fat piece of shit kid, which seems very specific. Like there must have been a specific story from her past. That just abuses the unicorn so badly that he breaks off the ride to hunt the kid down. I'm like, okay, boom, it's a revenge movie now. The unicorn is the protagonist.
Oh, tremendous! Both of us used to work at Universal Studios, so we sympathize. We sympathize. Yeah.
I was not a ride operator, fortunately.
I was.
a food stand attendant, which wasn't much better.
Yeah, she was ride operator. That's why she was so firsthand. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I mean everything. Like the inciting incident of this movie is a kid wiping his boogers on a carousel unicorn, which is like the greatest inciting incident of any movie I've ever seen. God, I love that you just took it's such a goofy idea, and I think the fact that you embraced it as much as you did is just the way you have to tackle something like this. How did it come together? So you have this idea. How was like the writing process, getting your crew together? Like how big did you want to go with it? How kind of wacky did you want to go with it? Was there a balance that you were trying to? I mean, I think you probably knew you had to go pretty wacky with it because
Well, I mean, I love wacky. I love silly. So most of my movies are wacky or silly, and that's my favorite part of horror. Like I like cheering at the insanity of horror as opposed to trying to be scared by horror. I much prefer Jason pulling a 12-foot tall buzzsaw out of nothingness and killing, Bernie Lomax with it over pure, true horror of trying to make me scared. So the process was, I mean, I have a similar writing process is where I'll come up with we'll come up with the basic outline. No characters except for like the 2 or 3 leads. Then we come up with a list of character ideas, and most of the time they're cartoon characters because that's what I like too. And kind of pick and choose our favorites of who's going to go into the film, and then just start writing the screenplay itself. We just had finished working on, we wrote the script originally in 2015, so we had just released a movie I had been hired to make called Captain Z and the Terror of Leviathan, which had a $15,000 budget. So we kind of used that as a basis since I just got off a movie with that same budget. So like, okay, let me write for about the same amount of money in terms of the number of characters, number of locations. That's why there's only a few locations, because I wanted to put more money into the effects. We could have spent more time in the amusement park, but then less people would have died. So to me, it was more important to be like, okay, let's have one day in an amusement park for the establishment, but then let's go to, I can rent a house for a few $100s or under $1,000 for a couple of weeks, and the rest of the movie can be there, and then we can kill way more people way more gruesomely.
Best decision. Yes.
Good decision.
Yes.
Thank you. So wrote the script, whatever made me laugh, took a little once over on it. Yeah, I honestly, here's a little bit of info. Originally, we never met Laurie's mother. She wasn't in the script originally.
Okay.
But it started with them getting to the park, and that's it. And when I read it, it felt wrong. It felt like we didn't get to know them at all prior to them being thrust into the situation. So the entire opening scene and then the mid-credits scene with Laurie's mother being introduced were then added, and I think it helps everything flow a lot. And funny enough, Laurie's mother is now a very main character in CarousHELL too, so it's funny how those things work out.
Yes.
So wrote the script, talked to Cody, got everyone together, did the auditions, everyone was signed on, and then we didn't get the funding at first. We wanted to make the movie in 2015, and the funding completely fell out, and it was really a bummer. Couldn't raise the money at all. So I said, okay, well, let's get the horse, because Duke was $1,200 alone. Mm-hmm. And then we can use that to make a short, and then if we can get some traffic from that, maybe we can then try again to get the money for the feature. That Christmas, a dear friend, Rob Steinbach, was at my insane Super Merry Christmas party that I have every year. And he's a big fan of my movies. He was a big fan of Captain Z, loved Captain Z. And someone at the party said, hey, so what's going on with CarousHELL? What happened with that? And I explained, we tried to get 15 grand. We didn't raise the money. We got 1,000. So we bought the horse, and then maybe in a year or 2 years, we can do something with it. And Rob says, well, how much do you need? Oh, $15,000. Oh, I got that. What? Yeah. This movie sounds hilarious. I want it to exist. So I made him come back the next day when he wasn't drunk to talk about it again. Because I'm not a scumbag. But no, sober
Heck,
Rob.
let me grab some papers. Can you sign something real quickly?
Sign it right now. But no, we had another talk, and he's just like, no, I mean it, Steve. I think you're really good, and I think this movie is a really great idea, so I want to see it exist. And that's how CarousHELL came to be. So we got everyone back that was already signed on. We had to recast a couple people just because of scheduling, and it came together beautifully.
Awesome. I have a question for you, though. Now,
yes.
I saw this on Tubi. My question is,
I'm sorry that you lost the sex scene.
Oh, really? Oh
yeah, it's 2 minutes long. Yeah, Sarah's the top and is just forcing Duke to be in multiple sex positions.
Oh, wow. They made you cut that. Oh. My question was so I totally have to hear the story of them making you cut that. And I also want to know, how did this end up on Tubi? Because I have friends with movies on Tubi that don't know how their movie ended up on Tubi.
Okay, well, I know how my movies got on Tubi. The stuff that I still own the rights to, there's this great aggregator that showed up a year or 2 years ago called Film Hub that basically acts as the middleman in talking to a lot of these streaming websites. And that way you're able to get onto the major streaming websites that don't take direct submissions without using a distributor, which is a great idea because Film Hub takes a very small percentage compared to a distributor taking 40%. And, as I already said, streaming pays very little. So if you got a movie through a distributor on streaming, I'm getting 60% of a penny whenever it's streamed. So Wild Eye picked up CarousHELL, and so Wild Eye, since they're a more major distributor, they have direct access to these streaming websites, and one of them is Tubi, and they got it onto Tubi before Film Hub was really working with Tubi either. So it was Wild Eye that got CarousHELL onto Tubi.
Awesome. Now, what caused the censorship of this scene?
I don't know. I didn't know it was censored until I saw the movie was on Tubi and Amazon Prime Video with streaming, included with subscriptions, and it was 3 minutes shorter than what the actual cut is. And I was like, I think I know what they fucking cut. And so I watched my own movie to see what was gone, and so they cut out the whole sex scene. And they cut out the one shot of Robbie, Duke's son, in between Haley's legs. Before he leaps at Judy, there's a shot in between Haley's legs of him rolling around bloody and stuff. I guess they don't want people to understand where babies come from. Because you don't see anything. You know what I mean? You just see her legs. So that was the weirder cut. I assume because especially Amazon, there's been I don't know how much you follow the indie film industry, but there's been so many waves of what we've been calling the indie purges of Amazon coming down hard with the hammer on a lot of indie studios, independent creators, horror, especially of just things getting axed with no rhyme or reason and no
trauma.
And so I
with it.
think while I just cut the scene out to kind of future-proof the movie, to kind of like hope, like if we cut out the very sexual scene, like not the tits, like the tits can be in the movie, but like cut out the actual sex, even though there's no penetration, yada yada yada, just out of safety to try to make sure that it doesn't get deleted for that reason.
Now all of your discs that you sell at cons are limited edition director's cuts, though.
They are unlimited director's cuts.
Nice.
So everyone can buy as many copies as they want.
Yes.
It is also uncensored on stevebuster.com, my streaming service subscription.
Nice. Okay, we're going to have to plug that again at the end of the episode.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you more about Duke, the prettiest goddamn unicorn in the world.
Of course.
Kind of, where did his voice come from? I mean, I love that he's kind of basically this sort of wisecracking, kind of almost comedian. He has like a catchphrase when he kills a lot of his victims, and I love how meta it is. Where did that kind of come from? Was there any specific influences for his voice?
Well, obviously, as I said, first movie I ever saw, Nightmare on Elm Street. Huge fan of Freddy Krueger. Nightmare on Elm Street is probably one of, if not my top favorite horror franchise. But I like killers that can talk and are cocky and can make jokes. I've always liked that. And up to that point, I had not made a horror movie with a character like that yet. You know, I had movies where the villains could talk, but I didn't make a horror slasher movie with a talking killer. So from going into it, I was like, Duke's absolutely talking. He's going to talk a lot. He's going to crack jokes. It's going to be Freddy, Chucky, you name it. This is the concept. When it came to the actual sound of the voice, because we got the most auditions for Duke out of any character. Everyone wanted to be this new slasher icon as other people were like acting. Like, it doesn't even exist yet, guys. I don't know why you're so excited about this. But in the description, I was like, think Metal Gear Solid 4 Old Snake. Like that specific level of cynicism and like, I'm tired of this shit, but I can still get things done sort of voice. And we got a lot of great auditions. There was a couple of guys that just straight up sounded like David Hayter playing Snake. And I'm like, those guys were awesome, but if I just wanted David Hayter playing Snake, I would have called David Hayter and told him to play Snake again. So Steve Rimpici is the guy who really got the perfect sound of just that level of snarky and cynical and hate being alive, but also having fun while being alive. He from Jersey and has seen some shit. And so Steve is absolutely Duke, and he's back as Duke in the sequel, and he will play Duke until he dies, according to his own words. So
awesome. So I just want to confirm, you will not replace him with Kiefer Sutherland like Metal Gear Solid 5 did.
Well, let's get to CarousHELL 5 and see what happens.
I mean, if Kiefer Sutherland wants to be in Carousel, I think you need to listen to him. I mean,
you know what? I'll compromise. Kiefer Sutherland will play the human Duke. And Steve is still the voice of Unicorn Duke.
Oh, or even better, dub over him with Unicorn Duke's voice, but have him physically. Oh, that would be pretty. I'm a big Hercules in New York fan, you know. But this was great. You have mentioned the sequel, which I've yet to see. I need to see it. How do I get it? Where do I see it? I'm all in on this.
For now, it is only available physically. Aline and I have planned to keep the rights on this one to try to make some money off of this idea that everyone loves. So right now, you can buy DVD and Blu-ray at silverspotlightfilms.com. In November, it will be available digitally on stevebuster.com. Eventually, I'll submit it to Film Hub so that it gets onto the major streaming sites, but that is a long ways off. So, like, if you like CarousHELL 1 or you like how these movies sound, honestly, personally, just asking people to buy this movie. Like, awesome. I'm just going to outright put it out there. Please buy the DVD, please buy the Blu-ray, or at the very least, subscribe to Steve Buster for a few months to kind of support it. And then November 1st, it'll go up, and then you can keep the links on Steve Buster forever. It's not like as soon as you sub, you lose it. If you bookmark it, you can still access it. It's not private otherwise.
Steve Buster is your own streaming service, right?
Yeah.
It
has all of my movies. It has all of the bonus features from those movies, and it has a bunch of exclusives that I've shot for the service, and it also has several movies that I don't sell anymore because I made them when I was a child or very young adult that people asked for. So now they're on the service, upscaled to HD, and they also have videos of me drinking while watching them, insulting them, and everything about them. But there's like 25 hours worth of stuff on there, and it's like $3 a month. Awesome. So I wanted to give an option for people to watch my insane amount of movies without needing to buy 12 Blu-rays, because I understand this past year's been a little weird. I don't know if you guys have noticed anything happening.
Well,
Yeah, it's been a little strange. Yeah. So Duke, was he always a Nazi? Like, did you immediately just trying to go to the most ridiculous backstory possible for something?
Yes. Yes, we had that backstory planned from the start. Obviously, it's in the first film. When we were in the outline, I was like, boom, we're going to mention the Nazis. But I will say Duke is not a Nazi.
I mean, he's a Nazi experiment. Yeah.
Yes.
It's created by.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't meant to be super clear in the first movie. You are supposed to kind of wonder, is Duke a Nazi? Because Cowboy Cool calls him a Nazi. Cowboy Cool is wrong. Like, Cowboy Cool does think Duke is a Nazi, and Cowboy Cool is wrong. But yes, that was always part of the plan. We had that plan from before we even wrote the script for the first movie. That's definitely my Puppet Master homage.
Question about Cowboy Cool. That looked very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable.
Honestly, it wasn't too bad.
You were him, right?
No. PJ Gaynard was Cowboy Cool. I just mean cool. I wore him for a few shots or like for some test stuff, and it's not too uncomfortable.
Nice, but are there like 10 takes of him like hitting the top of door frames or anything like that? I feel like that would be me.
No, not at all. PJ was a professional. Like, you would have thought he grew up in that suit, because he was just not. He was moving totally normally. The worst he did was just like he had no peripheral vision. That's it. But even then, we were just like, okay, here's your opening.
And my other question about multiple takes is our French Canadian couple. That makeout scene. Did they have to stop and laugh at any point? Because
unfortunately, no. It's great because so Aline and I both gave the direction in that scene of just like, we want this to be like look very awkward and like no one knows how to fucking make out. So Josh, who plays Pierre, was just like, I got this, and he just looked at Sarah Brunner and said, okay, just don't react. And he brushed his teeth and like he was very polite, and he was just like, okay, just don't react. So Sarah had no idea what was coming. And we just like, action, and then he goes for it, and I'm just like, what the hell is happening? He starts fucking her lips with his tongue, and she goes a really long time before she does her line and doesn't break. That was one take, and it was phenomenal, and I can't get over that. Josh just went for it, and Sarah took it, and everyone was having a real good time.
Tremendous. True professionals. Yes. One take. Tremendous. Oh my gosh. Yeah, when I was watching that scene, I was just like, oh my god, how many times do they have to do this? So tremendous.
So where did you find the prop that was Duke? Essentially, it was kind of more or less like a blow mold of sorts, right? Like, I mean, how long did it take to get that?
So we wrote the script, and then we were like, where the hell did we get a carousel horse? Like, we didn't think about this ahead of time. So we looked online a lot, and we found a guy on eBay at the time. Again, this was 2015. I don't know if he's still doing it. I don't know who he is. I don't have that answer anymore. But he was a guy that apparently owned like 4 or 5 different carousel horses and would sell molds of those horses. So we kind of like looked at the different shapes and sizes and picked our favorite one, which is Duke. And it arrived in a huge wooden box. And again, it was $1,200 to get Duke.
Oh, damn.
And get it shipped. It's a very, very thick resin plastic, but it is hollow, so it isn't insanely heavy. It isn't insanely massive, but it's not light. It's still huge. At that point, we had Cody Rook take additional molds of his head and 2 front hooves so that we can use that as stunts, like the stunt head, the stunt hooves for holding the stuff or moving the head real quick. Cody is the one that turned the horse into a unicorn, so the horn is completely handcrafted by Cody himself. And then from there, Aline basically took a picture, because it came to us white. It came to us pure white, just the plastic. So Aline took a picture and then printed out the picture 3 times and did 3 different like colorings of Duke and just said, okay, Steve, Mr. Director, which one are we choosing? And so they all look great, and I almost picked the very hyper USA American one for Duke, but I couldn't get past the pink purple prettiness that we see in the film. You know, to me, Duke should be the prettiest unicorn in the world. So from there, that's what we did. And he still lives in our house. He's in our basement right now.
Awesome. So real ones, are they wood or are they fiberglass? There's something big
I
and heavy,
honestly
right?
don't know. That would be a question for Aline. If you ever want to have her on the show, she is the park expert and knows the
Nice.
answers to all of those questions.
Nice.
So the scene of me in the movie of Joe going made out of wood or plastic, I don't know what he's made of. That's just real.
Nice. Nice.
So I have to ask you about kind of the practical effects of this movie. They're freaking awesome.
Yes.
So like you mentioned your special effects guy who was on board with the sequel and everything, who worked on the sequel with you. Was there anything that was like cut from the original movie? Was there anything you wanted to do that you had to cut out? Or...
No, he added shit. Like he made things better. Like nothing was cut out. Like the scene of the guy that gets his head Pez dispensed by getting kicked with the hoof. In the script, that was meant to be Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason punches the guy's head off.
That's what I came across as,
That's what it's meant to be. And Cody said, hey, Steve, what if I take the mold of the actor's head? I could even be that guy. That is Cody Rook, by the way, the guy that gets his head split. That's our makeup
the
guy.
serial killer?
Yeah. No, not the serial killer. The guy that gets his head kicked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what if I do the kill like this, and the hoof punches the face and like the head splits? And I'm just like, Cody, I gave you the check of the amount of money you said you needed. If you can afford to do it, do it. Same, like the final kill with Lori with Say Marie, that was meant to be like a quick, like, it was meant to be just like stage 1 and that's it. And Cody instead built a rubber upper torso of Say to suck the face in with a vacuum cleaner, then stage 2 of the melt, and then stage 3 of the break, and that was all up to Cody. That was not even
very. That was very spookies. It was tremendous.
Hell yes, spookies.
Yeah.
Oh, and also gotta shout out the Friday the 13th kill with the choking over the tree and over the head.
Oh yes,
always the best.
That is. Let me tell that story since it came up. In addition, it's related to what we were just talking about of Cody adding things. So Jordan, who plays that character Diana. Which, that's Diana and Clark, and they have a friend named Bruce. Yes, that was on purpose. Jordan asked me, like, hey, am I getting bloody during my kill? Because I have this nice dress I'd love to wear, but I don't want to, like, ruin it if that's the case. I'm like, no, you're not going to get bloody. You're getting choked to death by a Garrett. Like, it's just going to come down, choke you. You may put a little bit of, like, red on your neck, but that's going to be it. She's like, oh, great. So we get to set. And we're shooting, like, the dialogue and stuff. And I'm like, yeah. So I told Jordan she's not getting bloody. And Cody's like, what? She's going to get so fucking bloody. I'm going to use, like, the most blood I have on her. I'm like, why are you doing? Yeah, her throat is going to get cut and it's going to just gush down. I'm like, oh, okay. And, like, by the end of the scene, she's just covered and I feel so bad. And, like, I drive her to my house, let her use my shower. I give her, like, a bunch of, like, one of my sweaters and my sweatpants. I'm just like, oh, God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I wasn't lying. I didn't know. But she still talks to me, so it mustn't have been that bad.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
To be fair, he uses detergent blood. Like, his base is detergent, so it makes the blood really easy to wash out of anything. So I hope that her dress was just fine.
Hopefully, yeah. Oh, man, that was a lot of blood. But I do gotta say, I just pointed at the screen. I'm like, this guy gets it. He did the Crazy Ralph kill
Absolutely.
in this movie. Yes.
There's another very specific Friday the 13th kill in 2 that I think you'll enjoy. Yes. I don't want to spoil it though, since you're such a fan. I want you to just see it and be like, yes.
I tried to work one into a short my friend did for my script, and I had the Kevin Bacon kill in my script, and they changed it to a guy just getting stabbed, and I'm like, oh, come on.
Bummer.
Yeah. It was supposed to happen in a car, and they ended up getting a van with, like, a metal partition so no one could realistically be behind it, stabbing through it. I'm like, you guys just weren't stabbing hard enough. I'm sorry.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
I do have to say, Steve, you're fantastic as Joe, the pizza delivery boy.
Tremendous.
The most oblivious, like, dude.
The heart and soul of this movie.
I so many of those takes, I can't imagine. I have to think that you guys broke like after like almost every one of those scenes because you were so funny. It was really a treat to watch you, man. This whole movie. So let's talk just a bit about Carousel the second, just a bit about the plot, so we know everyone knows what to expect going into it. So obviously we're exploring Duke's past.
Yes.
Why he was created, where he came from, and he also has a kid kind of to deal with. So
yes.
What's like the pitch for this movie? What's kind of the log line here? What are we gonna expect with
So
Carousel?
as you saw at the end of the first film, the romance scene ended in a child, and so that child leaps into the arms of Laurie's mother, Miss Lawrence, and she raises this kid. So if Carousel 1 is about a child that you hate and want to see die, Carousel 2 is absolutely about a child that you are going to love and want to protect with your entire being. It's very important that Robbie was sweet and cute and adorable and just a really good person. That's what Robbie is. So Duke finds out that Robbie exists. He had no idea. Like, he's been off doing stuff, living life for the past 5 years, like real time. This Carousel 1 came out in 2016. Took place in 2016. Carousel 2 is coming out in 2021. It starts in 2021. And it's about Duke's past coming back in two different ways. As you just said, the Nazis that created Duke have finally found him again, and they're still alive using dark magic. So they're tracking Duke down for either to get him to switch sides back to being on their side or to destroy him. At the same time, Robbie is coming into Duke's life, and Duke's question of the first movie is, what am I? Oh, I'm a killer. This feels right, is now more complicated than he originally assumed. Now he's realizing that he's also a father, and this also feels right. He's not just a killer, and he wants to actually be a good father and be there for Robbie, especially after missing out on the first 5 years of his life. So it's honestly, it's half Duke trying to be a good dad and raising his son, and half murdering fucking Nazis. So that's what the second film is about.
Can we expect any other cameos from the first film besides the mother? Anyone else show up?
For the most part, everyone's dead. I will say, just as a nice little cameo, because it's not a spoiler, in Meowy 3, Meowy St. Patrick's Day, you find out that the pizza place that Whiskers orders her food from is Pete's Pizza from CarousHELL.
Oh.
And there's a new person working at Pete's Pizza since Joe is dead. Her name is Jen. And Jen from Meowy 3 comes back in Carousel 2 delivering pizza to Duke.
That's great. That's fantastic.
But other than that, I'd say I will say there's a couple of jokes from the first film that get their punchline in the second film.
Oh, cool. I dig that.
So yeah, it's not extremely urgent where you'd completely miss the point of something if you don't watch the first film, but maybe a decent idea to rewatch the first film before watching the second to completely enjoy the more detailed nuances. Like, you may forget that Lunchbox wore that stupid Trilby hat and not understand why it's hanging on the Christmas tree of Miss Lawrence's house as she's talking about her dead children.
The Trilby hat made him so much more killable. But people should be watching the first movie as much as possible. And now that we know it's censored, you have to buy it on disc. You have to buy the physical version.
So what's your next project, Steve? What do you have in the works, man?
I mean, the most real answer is my next project is selling Carousel 2. That's its own project.
Yeah.
I'm very much a one movie at a time kind of guy. That being said, I have been hired by a group called Authors and Dragons to direct their horror movie anthology script called Shingles. It is basically an adult, grosser version of Goosebumps. It's a handful of really fun stories that, depending on how much money we raise, how detailed and expensive the stories will be. But they have a real fun sense of humor. It's a little different from mine, but I like that because I'm going to do kind of my take on their humor and see what that turns into. And it's currently still raising money on Indiegogo.com. So if you search Shingles the movie on Indiegogo or even on Google, I think it'll bring up the Indiegogo. Check it out. See if the project sounds interesting to you. I think it sounds interesting. If you like my movies, you might like this movie. And give it a support, even just pre-order a DVD or something. Help it get made. We're at like 20,000 right now. And there's some fun ideas in the script, so I'm definitely going to be shooting that next spring because I am a tiny baby when it comes to the cold and don't shoot anything when it's cold. That is a hard rule of my life as a creator. So we'll shoot that, and then if all goes well, that may even be done and out by next October 2022.
Yeah, that's the one perk of being in Los Angeles. You don't have to deal with the cold.
Oh, we have a puppet named Sloppy. I'm all in.
You can even own Sloppy.
Oh, wow. Yes. Tremendous. Signs throwing dildo. Okay, this is the This is the first film where I've seen that as a goal, a signed throwing dildo, okay? And this is coming from someone who owns a signed tampon from the FP. So
Oh, excellent.
this is some good promotional material here. I like this.
I love perks.
Oh, but I do have to say, unfortunately, the signed dildo nunchucks have already been claimed. Tremendous. Yeah. Tremendous. That's oh, Michelangelo's my favorite Ninja Turtle. I'm sad that someone got that before me now.
Steve, it's a random silly question. What are you going to be for Halloween this year, man? I got to ask.
Oh,
probably nothing, since I get paid to wear costumes all the time that I don't really wear costumes just for fun.
That's true.
I mean, I do hand out candy for Halloween because I'm definitely the full-size candy bar house, which I always wanted to be growing up. Yeah. So last year I was Roy Burns. This year, I may just grab one of the ones that I already have. I do have a really nice Captain Marvel, as in Shazam suit, so I may just wear that to hand out candy this year, since last year I was scary. This year I won't be scary. I try to go back and forth between terrifying children and not.
Do kids get extra candy if they call you Roy and not Jason when you're in a Roy Burns costume?
If anyone did that, yes, they would have gotten extra candy.
I gave a kid extra candy for coming to my door as the Undertaker. I'm like,
oh, nice.
Here you go. You get 2 bars. This is
a couple years back when I was the Flash, because Wally West is my favorite comic book character, and so my Flash suit is kind of like a modified version of the season 2 TV show suit, except with Wally's like one axe lightning bolt, and I don't wear the cowl. I wear a red wig and color my eyebrows red. And one kid said, "Oh, it's Wally!" I was like, "Well, you get 5 candy bars. There you go."
Yes. None of that Barry Allen. Get out of here, Barry Allen. No, Barry Allen's still great, but come on, he's not Wally. Come on.
He's not Wally.
Steve, thank you so much for joining us, man. This has been so much fun just getting to talk with you. Where can they find you on Twitter?
Okay, on Twitter, honestly, I always forget what my Twitter handle is. I just see my real name on there.
I was legit trying to find you.
It's at Steve Rudzinski. It's my real name. So Steve Rudzinski on Twitter. On Instagram, I'm at Dark Mullet. So if you want to see me wear spandex or be shirtless and just overall be a thought, Instagram's the place to go. And of course, to find my films, silverspotlightfilms.com has all of my physical merchandise, all of my DVDs, all of my Blu-rays. It has the 10-year anniversary vinyl album where Side A has all the vocal tracks, and Side B has my composer's favorite scores, songs that he's done, and the CarousHELL deck building game is there, which is a lot of fun.
I noticed that you had a card game. That is awesome.
That is also on Tabletop Simulator for free. So if you own Tabletop Simulator on Steam, you can download the CarousHELL deck building game for free and try it out and see what it's like. If you don't want to buy all of my stuff physically, as I said earlier, digital options, stevebuster.com, like $3 a month. You get 25 hours worth of stuff. Keep the stuff forever. And third place to support me, my stuff is on the major streaming websites. That is a legitimate legal way to support me, and I still appreciate it. So Tubi TV is going to be the better bet, but a lot of my stuff is also on Prime Video.
Awesome. And we got to get Carousel the second. Absolutely buy it from Steve's website, but after it comes out digitally, we need to get it on Shudder, man. You belong.
I'm doing this. I'm doing this now. I am buying it at this moment. So yes.
Well, thank you.
It is.
Everyone tweet at Shudder to pick up Carousel too, because I've tried approaching them directly a couple times. They don't want to talk to me, and that's okay. But if enough people show that there's a demand for it, they'll be coming back. That's how this shit works.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
For the spelling impaired, Rudzinski is Rudzinski.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you so much, Steve. This has just been a blast. I hope we can have you on again to talk about some random horror movie.
I'd love to do that, yeah. Fun. If you want encyclopedic knowledge, have me on for Nightmare 4. I know way more about that movie than apparently most people do.
Awesome. When we do a commentary episode, because we like to do commentary episodes, we did an Elm Street 3 one. We have not done 4.
I'd love to be a part of that if you guys want me.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes. Steve. Thank you again, everybody. Watch Carousel. And purchase Carousel, the second Carousel too.
Yes, silverspotlightfilms.com right now.
Check out the Meowy series. Thank you again, Steve, so much for coming on. It was such a joy to talk with you.
Yes.
I hope we will be speaking with you again soon, man. Take it easy and have a wonderful day, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you once again.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve, for coming on. I just wanted to say, if you're also interested in being a guest on Another Miserable Podcast, please write us at anothermiserablepodcast@gmail.com. If you have something you'd like to promote, movie or otherwise, if you have any discussion topics for us, any horror movies you'd like us to review, please send in your suggestions, your recommendations, and if you'd love to be a guest on the show, please write us as well. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you on the show and collaborate with you. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, we are at twitter.com/AMPHorror. You can also find us on YouTube under Another Miserable Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us there or any streaming service we're on. Make sure to follow us on. We're on all the big ones. I'd never plug them, but I will just say it now. Apple Music, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, everything under the sun and more. We are on. Make sure to follow us. Please leave us a nice review, especially on Apple Podcasts or wherever streaming platform you find us on. We really appreciate a review. It really would help us out. And Casey, where can they find you on Twitter?
They can find me at Lucha Gringo. Yeah, it's locked, but I'll let you in. Don't worry about it. And I'm on our good friend Letterboxd as well. That's at Lucha Gringo there. Also, follow me, dude. Yeah, you can see me. Yeah, dude, Steve should find me on there because I'm the one with the Roy face as my avatar. Roy Bros. Yes. Finally, someone who appreciates Roy as much as I do.
And you can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Earth2Zach, Earth, D2, Zach. If you want to follow Chris, who was not in this episode, twitter.com/Chris Pistol, KRISPISTOLE. Don't worry, Chris has been tarred and feathered accordingly for missing this episode.
Also, want to say, dude, our homie Kevin's doing some good stuff. So if you want to check out what he's doing, he's got his new YouTube channel. His Twitter account for this show is Cool Ghoul Radio, at cool with the K, Ghoul spelled normally, radio spelled normally.
Yeah, watch Kevin's show on YouTube. It's great, and he's got a lot more in the works. So
yes,
thank you so much for tuning in for this special episode. Thank you again, Steve, for joining us. Hope you guys are enjoying the spooky season so far. We're still waiting for Monster Mash cereal to come back out here.
Yeah, we can't find it.
But hopefully,
if you got any leads, hit us up on social media, please, in the Los Angeles area.
But yeah, it's haunt season, so I'm really excited about that. We'll definitely be talking about some of that in October. Got our Halloween episodes in the works, so look forward to that. Stay safe, stay spooky, and we'll see you guys next time.